Already 4 video we have finished. Clear? Under that one, pre-fertilization structure we cover. So this video is little bit revision of topic what we covered in the last 4 topics. Clear? So until and unless we can't understand the pre-fertilization related to the male reproductive part and female reproductive part clearly, so it is not necessary to go to the next topic. Clear? So we will revise in the faster mode only. So try to recollect the terminologies and the process and the content. Clear? While I am explaining this one. Clear? After that only we will cover some extra topic only. Then next topic we will cover, that is a pollination. So this is a comparative study of the male and the female pre-fertilization structure and event. Yes, that means pre-fertilization structure is androecium. Under that one almost topic we covered. So this is the female one. So we will compare parallelly. First one, the male reproductive structure is androecium. So androecium is made up of many stamens. Stamens means stamen is made up of filament and anther. So this is a simple structure. So this is the stamen. It is made up of filament and anther. Clear? So this will attach to the thalamus one. This is a projecting one. When you take the transverse section of anther, clear? So if you take the TS of anther, then you will get the roughly tetragonal structure like this one. So this is the TS of end anther. This one. Yes. So the anther is a bilobe structure, right lobe and left lobe, and both the lobes are connected with the help of connective tissue. On the another side, longitudinal groove is there that will run from the anterior to posterior part. Clear? So each lobe is a diathecus. In each lobe, 2 microsporangia is there. That's why it is a bilobed diathecus, and due to presence of these 4 microsporangia, it is a tetrasporangiate. Yes. So center 4 microsporangia is there. So to study this one more figure is given in the textbook. That is the enlarged view of the microsporangium. Yes. So when you take the pre-fertilization structure of male part 1, the heading is, first one is a stamen, second one is a microsporangium. Clear? So when you want to study this microsporangium structure, this is nothing but the any one lobe of this anther only, itself only. Clear? When you move from outside to inside in this figure or in this figure also, so 4 layers are there, and inside that one microsporangium is there. So just try to collect this one. The outermost layer is the epidermis, this one. Here also epidermis. Second layer is the endothecium. So it is radial and the tangential wall, the inner wall has little bit fibrous one. So this green color portion is the middle layer. So all 3 layers, epidermis, endothecium, middle layer, help in the providing protection to this anther or microsporangium. The innermost layer of the anther wall is the tapetum, which is functionally very important one. So each cell of the tapetum has a dense cytoplasm and minimum more than 1 nucleus. Clear? So it is a polynucleate condition due to the endomitosis. Means karyokinesis occur, but cytokinesis will not take place. So due to that one, each cell of the tapetum contain more than 1 nucleus. The function of tapetum is given in textbook in the primitive, but actual function is different. The tapetum will provide the nourishment for the developing microspores, first one. Second one, this tapetum will produce the Ubish body. That Ubish body is deposited in the exine that will decide the thickness and patterning of the exine. Tapetum will produce some enzymes like Calase enzyme and indolystic acid. That Calase enzyme help in the separation of microspore tetrad into microspores. Fourth function, it produces pollen kit in the entomophilous flower. Though functionally this tapetum is very important. That is separate 3 marks question. Clear? So in anther and microspore, major question means name the layers of anther wall. One. Second one, mention the functions of the tapetum. These are the 2 major questions. So this is a TS of young anther. Now this is a microsporangium. Yes. Now, what means which process will undergo in the microsporangium means this sporogenous tissue. Some of the sporogenous tissue develop into specialized cell, these are called the microspore mother cell or the pollen mother cell. Clear? So this is a pollen mother cell which is diploid in nature. So this pollen mother cell undergo meiosis. Now one major event occurs, that is nothing but the microsporogenesis. Pollen mother cell undergo first meiotic division and produce the 2 microspores, followed by another meiotic division and produce the 4 microspores, but all microspores are held together by a common bond. Now this process, the formation of haploid microspore, which is haploid in nature, from diploid pollen mother cell, this complete process is nothing but microsporogenesis. Here microspores are produced. Clear? So this is a microspore tetrad. Now microspore tetrad is a cluster. It consists of 4 microspores. That microspore tetrad either is tetrahedral or isobilateral or decussate or T-shaped or linear. Clear? The arrangement of 4 microspore, any one of these cases. So either it is a tetrahedral, isobilateral, decussate type, T-shaped or the linear one. So when this tapetum will produce the callase enzyme, callase will dissolve the callose wall and all microspores separate. So these are the 4 microspores separate from the microspore tetrad. So now these microspores have potential to develop into pollen grain. Main. What is the intrinsic line means? From each pollen mother cell, 4 microspores develops, and each microspore have the potential to develop into pollen grain. Here, so these are the pollen grain. Means, so number-based question may arise. For example, if each microsporangia contain 100 microspore mother cell or pollen mother cell, then totally how many pollen grains are produced in this tetrasporangiate anther? Yes, from 1 microspore mother cell 4 pollen grains, from 100 400 pollen grains are produced, from each microsporangia almost 400 means total 1600 pollen grains can be produced into this anther. Like this question may arise. Clear? So this is a microsporogenesis. Now next one, the pollen grain development. How the microspore develop into pollen grain, that is a figure-based explanation is given, but actual explanation is missing. This is a microspore. So this is a microspore. The nucleus initially present toward the center. Now the nucleus of microspore migrate toward the periphery, move toward the periphery due to the formation of asymmetrical spindles. Clear? So this nucleus undergo unequal mitotic division. Mitosis occurs and 2 cells are formed. So one cell is a little bit larger with the irregular shaped nucleus and other is a smaller cell one. This larger cell is the vegetative cell and smaller cell is a generative cell. We already covered. Clear? So this is the pollen grain. So by 2 nuclei. Initially this generative cell is present toward the periphery. It is attached toward the periphery. Gradually the wall present between this vegetative cell and generative cell dissolve, and this generative cell is suspended to the cytoplasm of this vegetative cell. Clear? So during that process only in microsporangia, some specific chemicals are deposited on this pollen grain. So the 2-layered pollen wall is formed, that is intine and extine. So the pollen grains are released from the anther either in the 2-celled condition or the 3-celled condition. This is 2-celled, this is 3-celled. Now what is the difference means? When the pollen grain contain one vegetative cell and one generative cell, such pollen grains are called the two-celled pollen grain. If the generative cell undergo mitotic division and produce the two male gamete, then it is called the three-celled condition. Clear? So in angiosperms, 60% of angiosperm family produce the pollen grain in the two-celled condition. When pollen grain released from the anther, two-celled condition. Remaining 40% of pollen grain released in the form of three-celled condition. Now, how the pollen grains are released from this microsporangium? That is another topic. But when you take the pollen grain, it is separate 5 marks question or 3 marks question. Clear? Explain the structure of pollen grain is. Now, pollen grains are either spherical, ovoid, or the triangular in shape. The diameter of the pollen grain is 25 to 50 micron. So it is either two-celled or three-celled. The pollen wall has two layers, outer exine and inner intine. The intine is made up of pectose and cellulose. It is a continuous layer. It is present everywhere. Clear? It is elastic in nature. Outside to this intine, exine is there. The exine is made up of specific chemical that is called the sporopollenin. The sporopollenin is the toughest organic substance present in the exine that can withstand in the high temperature, strong acid, strong alkali condition, and even till today not a single enzyme will digest that sporopollenin. But this sporopollenin present everywhere except some point. These are called the germ pores. Clear? So due to presence of these germ pores, that means the sporopollenin, the pollen grain can be easily preserved into the nature. Clear? So that's why the exine or the sporopollenin is resistant to biological degradation also and the chemical degradation also. So this is about the pollen grain. Now how the pollen grains are released from this microsporangium? When pollen grains are produced in this microsporangium, now this chamber is called as a pollen sac. Initially it is a microsporangium, now it is a pollen sac. So pollen grains are produced. Now the sterile tissue which is present in between this pollen sac degenerate. That is a middle layer. Clear? Gradually this anther undergo dehydration. Means whatever water is there that will evaporate. So it became dry. So the special position, this place here, the thickness of the anther wall is very thin one. So it is made up of single layer cell, epidermis and endothecium. So due to the development of pollen grain, pressure exerted, suddenly this microsporangia ruptures and it forms the one common chamber. Clear? So both the pollen sacs united. Clear? And suddenly rupture means anther wall rupture here only, and all the pollen grains released from this anther. Clear? This process is called as a dehiscence of anther. When you take this anther, so this will take place longitudinally from the anterior to posterior. So that's why in textbook total 3 figures are related to the male. TS of an anther is totally different. Microsporangium is different. Then this is a dehisced anther, means mature anther, where the pollen grains are released from. Clear? So this is about the pre-fertilization structure in the male reproductive part. So some vague topic related to pollen grain we also cover. That is the viability of pollen grain, storage of pollen grain, that is nothing but the cryopreservation, how the pollen grains are responsible for the allergic reaction in some persons that may cause the asthma also, bronchial affliction also, and even bronchitis also. And the complete study of the pollen grain is called the paleontology. Clear? So this is about the male pre-fertilization structure and the event. Clear? Now we will cover the female reproductive part comparing with the male reproductive part. When it is the female reproductive part, it is made up of carpels. The number of carpels is a deciding factor. Every species has a specific number of carpels. When you compare the last year morphological study, 3 families we covered: Solanaceae, Fabaceae and Liliaceae. Clear? So all in this family, Solanaceae is a means the flowers of Solanaceae has a bicarpellary gynoecium. Then Leguminosae monocarpellary, Liliaceae is a tricarpellary. Means if the gynoecium is made up of one carpel, that is a monocarpellary. More than one, polycarpellary. If it is a polycarpellary gynoecium, the carpels are either fused or free condition. If they are fused, it is a syncarpus. If they are free, that is a syncarpus, apocarpus. Yes. So now, the pistil or carpel is made up of three parts. That is stigma, and this is the style, and this is the ovary. Yes. Inside this ovary, ovarian cavity is there. It is a locule, and placenta is present. On that placenta, ovules are there. Clear? So the arrangement of ovules inside the ovary on this placenta is called the placentation. Now, in pre-fertilization structure of the female reproductive part, first is pistil. That is the pistil. Yes. Second one is a megasporangium given. Megasporangium is given. Now, what is a megasporangium? It is also called as a ovule. It is a major portion, most repeatedly asked one. So, try to draw the figure of the ovule. Clear? So, ovule is like this one. So, it is a integumented indehiscent megasporangium. So this is the anatropous ovule. So in textbook, one embryo sac is also drawn. This is the anatropous ovule. Here, try to recollect the point what we covered in the last video. So this is a funicle. With the help of funicle, it is attached to the placenta. Labeling I will note. First revision. Clear? So this is a funicle. The junction between the funicle and the body of the ovule is called the hilum. This is the hilum. The ovule is covered completely by the integuments. So either it contains one integument, two or three. Here two integuments are there. So this is the outer integument, this is the inner integument. This point is called the chalaza, from which the integument arises. This is called the chalaza end. This is chalaza end. And integument present everywhere except one point. This is called the micropylar end. Yes, this is chalaza end. This is micropylar end. Inside these two integument, nucellus is there, which is a nutritive tissue. So inside to that nucellus, embryo sac is there. Yes. So this is a typical anatropous ovule. Now, what is the anatropous ovule? We will discuss afterwards. Means this is a megasporangium or anatropous ovule. This is a microsporangium. Can you differentiate? Microsporangium is a male reproductive part. Megasporangium is a female reproductive. Now, what happened inside this anatropous ovule? That is related to the megasporogenesis topic. Now, inside this nucellus one, some of the cell became prominent, and this is called as a megaspore mother cell, which is also diploid in nature. Yes, here I written pollen mother cell. This is a megaspore mother cell. This megaspore mother cell undergo first meiotic division and produce 2 megaspores. It undergo second meiotic division and produce 4 megaspores. Here, this event, the formation of megaspore, which is haploid in nature, the formation of haploid megaspore from diploid megaspore mother cell, this event is called as a megasporogenesis. Now, this is a megasporogenesis, this is a microsporogenesis. Event is almost similar. Here from the each pollen mother cell, 4 microspores are produced. From each megaspore mother cell, 4 megaspores are produced. Now, story differ. So, out of these 4 megaspores, now 3 megaspores which are present toward the micropylar end degenerate. 1, 2, 3. These 3 megaspores degenerate and they became non-functional. This is toward the micropylar end on this side. And this one became functional. This is called the functional megaspore. Functional megaspore. So this is a chalazoid. Yes. Now, further development is a different one. That is the development of embryo sac from this megaspore. Now, this functional megaspore undergo first mitotic division. Clear? So it undergo first mitotic division and produce 2 nucleus. So this mitotic division is special one. Here the cell wall formation is totally absent. After every mitotic division, only nucleus are formed. So this is first mitotic division. So this is the second mitotic division and this is third mitotic division. So now see the number of nucleus. So this is functional megaspore. After first mitotic division, it formed 2 nucleate embryo sac. Second mitotic division, it formed the 4 nucleate embryo sac. After third mitotic division, it formed the 8 nucleate embryo sac. Now within a same cell, 8 nucleus are there. That's why it is a 2 nucleate embryo sac, 4 nucleate embryo sac, 8 nucleate embryo sac. Now this process is a development of everything. Now out of this 4 embryo sac means 4 nucleus toward the chalazal end and toward the micropylar end, 1 nucleus migrate toward the center and 3 nucleus will remain toward one pole and these 3 nucleus will remain one pole and this is a migrated nucleus. So 1 nucleus migrate to this side and 1 nucleus migrate to this side. So reorganization of nucleus takes place. After this only cell wall is laid down. Yes. So now just observe properly how many mitotic and how many meiotic divisions are required to produce the embryo sac. Now after reorganization of this nucleus, cell wall is laid down. Now see here. So this is the micropylar end and this is the chalazal end as I written here. So this is chalazal end. Towards the micropylar end, one egg is there and 2 synergids are present. Inside this synergid, this finger-like cellular structure there, aperture is there, that is a filiform apparatus. This one, this filiform apparatus help in the directing the pollen tube towards the micropylar region. That will cover afterwards. So this one egg and synergid. This is synergid and this is a egg. Collectively called as, it is called as a egg apparatus. This is the egg apparatus. Toward the chalazal end, 3 cells are there. So these are called as a antipodal cells. Yes. Center, one large cell is there. It has its own cell wall and plasma membrane and it contains 2 nucleus. So this center, this is a center cell, central cell, and these 2 nucleus are the polar nucleus. Now this is a female gametophyte. Try to count the number of cells and number of nucleus in this cell. One, number of cells. 3 cells present toward the chalazal end, 3 cells present toward the micropylar end, and this one is a central cell. So that's why this embryo sac is a 7 cell. 7 cells are there. Now count the nucleus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 7 cell an 8 nucleated structure. It is important. Here, the female gametophyte is 7-celled 8 nucleus. In that one, this egg is a female gamete. Can you compare? The male gametophyte is either 2-celled or 3-celled. Male gametophyte, that is nothing but pollen grain. It is a 2-celled or 3-celled. If it is a 2-celled, it contains vegetative cell and generative cell. If it is a 3-celled, 1 vegetative cell and 2 male gamete. These are the male gametophyte. In that one, these are the male gamete. If you take the female gametophyte, it is a 7-celled 8 nucleus, synergid and egg combine to form the egg apparatus, 3 antipodal cell, and central cell contain the 2 polar nucleus. So this mature embryo sac, now we have to fit into this anatropos. If you remove this embryo sac one, the mature embryo sac fit like this. This is the embryo sac. These are the synergid. Toward the chalazal end, antipodal cells are there. These are the antipodal cell. Toward the micropylar end, synergid there. And in center, one egg. And this is a center cell with the 2 polar nucleus. Just notice here. This anatropos ovule, this is a chalazal end, this is a micropylar end. Here embryo sac, this is a chalazal end and this is a micropylar end. If you want to fit the embryo sac into this figure one, either you have to rotate this embryo sac, otherwise you have to rotate this anatropos ovule. In textbook also figure is given like this only. This anatropos ovule is given in the inverted manner and embryo sac is figured like this one. Clear? So just take care which side is the chalazal end, which side is the micropylar end, which types are present over the which end. Clear? So this is a female gametophyte and the anatropos ovule. Now can you differentiate? The question may arise. Distinguish between microsporogenesis and megasporogenesis. Distinguish between the male gametophyte and the female gametophyte. So only to clarify the concept in between the pre-fertilization structure related to the male reproductive part and female reproductive part, this revision we can do. Yes. Now come to the main point. This is the anatropos ovule. What it means? Anatropos means. So when you take the angiosperms one, so one major topic comes, that is the types of ovules. So it is an extension. It is not mentioned in the textbook, NCERT textbook one, but in competitive exam question may arise. Clear? Any type of question may arise based on this one. Only embryo sac figure is there. Now I will draw the ovule. So first one, this one. If first I will draw the figure. So this is a simple one. If micropylar end, chalaza and funicle. Can you locate this one? Micropyle, chalaza, funicle. If they are in the straight line, here, this type of ovule is called as a orthotropous. Simplest one. And this ovule is the most primitive type. It is the most primitive type. It is simplest one. Clear? So this type of ovule you can see in plant like cycas. Yes, main point, micropyle, chalaza, funicle. All they are in the straight line only. Here. Next, if in some families, if unilateral growth take place on one side only, either this side or this side, then the ovule figure is a little bit different. Now, can you locate the micropyle, funicle and chalaza? This is a micropyle, this is a chalaza, this is a funicle. What is the angle present between the micropyle and the funicle? That is almost 90 degree due to the unilateral growth one. This type of ovules are called as a hemianatropous ovule or hemitropous ovule. Clear? So this is the orthotropous, where all three are present in straight line. Hemianatropous means due to the unilateral growth, 90 degrees there, micropyle, chalaza and funicle. So it is seen in the cycas. This is seen in family like Ranunculaceae. Yes. Now, third one. If curvature is little bit more, yes, total rotation. If funicle is here, micropyle is nearby to this one, chalaza is totally opposite to this one. Why this happen? This is only due to the 180-degree rotation of the ovule. Here only 80 degree. This is complete 180-degree rotation. This is similar to this one. That's why this ovule is called as a anatropous ovule. This is the most prevalent. Almost 80% of the angiosperm family have this type of ovule. That is anatropous. Now, if curvature is there, but micropyle is little bit near to the funicle. Yes. Now, due to the unilateral growth, almost 90-degree rotation occur. Clear? But here, the micropyle is little bit near to the funicle and chalaza is almost 180 degree. So this is a 90-degree rotation, but micropyle is near to the funicle. Clear? So this type of ovule are called as a campylotropous ovule. Campylotropous. Example, this type of you can see in the Leguminosae family. Leguminosae means Fabaceae, what you covered here. So orthotropous, straight line. Hemianatropous, 90 degree. Anatropous, 180 degree. Campylotropous, 90 degree, but micropyle is near to the funicle. Now comes the main point. If curvature occurred, due to that one, the ovule structure is also curved one, and embryo sac is also curved. Can you differentiate here? Embryo sac is straight here, but here embryo sac is little bit curved nature. This embryo sac is horseshoe shaped one. If the embryo sac is also curved and ovule is also curved one, this type of ovule is called as a amphitropous. Amphitropous. This type of ovule you can see in the poppy plant. Now come the last point. Last type of ovule. So here it is the embryo sac. This is little bit unique. So this is a micropyle and this is the integument. But in funicle, curve and almost it rotates 360 degree. Can you rotate? So this is the funicle. It will rotate almost 360 degree and it is almost curved. Here. So this type of ovule is called as a Sarcinotropous ovule. Here. Sarconium sarcino, you can remember. Sarcinotropous. This is seen in Opuntia. Can you remember this one? Try to recollect the name. Orthotropous, all three are in straight line. Example, Cycas. Hemianatropous, 90 degree rotation. Ranunculaceae family, Malpighiaceae family. Anatropous is the most prevalent. 80% of the angiosperm have the anatropous ovule. This is the anatropous ovule. Here 180 degree rotation is there. Example, most of the angiosperm family. Campylotropous means again 90 degree rotation is there, but the micropyle is little bit near to the funicle. Little bit due to the only one-sided growth. Next one is the amphitropous. Here, curvature is such a way that the ovule is also a curved one and embryo sac is also curved. That's why embryo sac appear like the horseshoe-shaped structure. This is a amphitropous. Next one is the sarcinotropous. Here, finicle rotate almost 360 degree. So that's why it is a sarcinotropous seen in the opuntia. So these are the types of ovules seen in the angiosperms. So this is a little effort to cover almost pre-fertilization structure of the male and the female reproductive part. So little bit clumsy, little bit confusing, but it is necessary. Yeah. So the next topic is pollination. Now you can understand why the pollination is necessary, because just try to understand it. So one figure I will draw here. This is the female reproductive part, this is the male reproductive part, and this is a petal, and it is a calyx. Yes. Now tell me, male gametes are released from the anther and female gamete is present inside this ovary, inside this ovule, inside this embryo sac. How the fertilization occurs? Clear? In any case, the female gamete means this egg. Clear? Male gamete means these two male gamete have to come in close contact with each other, then only fertilization occurs. So that's why pollination means we have to bring this male gamete and female gamete physically close to each other, which will facilitate the fertilization. Clear? So try to position where the male gamete is present, where the female gamete is present. So this is the female gametophyte, this is a male gametophyte, this is a female gamete, and this is a male gamete. Clear? So try to visualize, try to understand how the nature is existing surrounding us. Clear? So till then, take care. We will meet again in the next video only. Have a nice day.